Hey everybody, welcome back. This is Eric Brown, bringing you, as always, the best of LA, where I share with you cool Los Angeles businesses here that you may or may not know of. As always, as your host, I am a Beverly Hills real estate agent, and I've got a cool treat for you today. I'm sharing with you Marvin Whistler, who is an online family mediator that's going to share all about his business and practice and how there might be some things that you may or may not know that could be really helpful. So Marvin, thanks so much for jumping on today.
Thank you, Eric. I'm a pleasure to be here.
Of course. So I always love to begin by asking, tell me a bit how you got started in the business. What was your background?
My background was mainly sales for many years, and at one point I was in real estate, and my who became my partner suggested that I take a look at mediation. He was a longtime arbitrator and mediator for real estate, and thought I'd be good at it. So I took a training with the city attorney's office, and I fell in love with it, and I've been doing it ever since. That was in 1991.
Where does the time go?
Yes.
Well, I would guess since then you've probably seen quite a variety of changes that have happened in the industry. I mean, as we even made the introduction when you said online mediator, that wasn't happening in 91.
No, it wasn't. And until recently, most mediators did not operate online. As it happens, just before the COVID shutdown, I had decided a few months before to actually start working online instead of exclusively in person. So I was prepared when the shutdown came. And so I just continued on with my plans of operating online. So that's how I got started with this.
That's great. And for those people that may not know, mediation can cover so many different facets. And you, interestingly, have a focus specifically on family issues. So could you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. By the time I got around to opening a business in mediation, I had been divorced twice, and I was a child of divorce. And as it happened, while I was in school, studying for my master's in mediation, I came across a course, a Saturday course that was presented specially for our class in divorce mediation. So I decided to explore it and see what that mediator could tell me about divorce mediation. And she was very good and gave me insights that I thought I would be good at doing divorce mediation. And I had a special interest because of my personal background. And so that's basically how I decided to start exploring it. And from there, it just grew.
Sure. And talk to us a little bit about, especially for the viewers that may be interested in this as a concept, about the services that you offer, how that works online, what logistics look like, intake processing, like just walk us through it.
Okay, all right. Well, I mentioned COVID earlier, but actually, and additionally, the reason that I made the switch, that I decided to make the switch to online, was that I was having difficulty in setting up appointments and traveling to appointments in Los Angeles. And I just got to the point where I just felt it wasn't worth it anymore to continue that path. And so I decided to do it online. And of course, everyone who's tried to make an appointment or go to an appointment in Los Angeles knows the difficulty and the challenges associated with that. But I operate online now, and so I can set the time whenever I like and whenever my clients like. So it's based upon both their convenience and my convenience. So now we don't worry so much about how we're going to get to the appointment. What time do we have to, block off 3 or 4 or 5 hours just for an hour or two appointment? We can set the appointment, and people are more comfortable in their surroundings. They can be in a room that they're comfortable with as long as they're by themselves. Because of confidentiality of the process, we don't allow others to come in unless everyone agrees. So that's basically how it operates, how it's set up.
Okay. And the type of, when you say family issues, could you elaborate on what those might be?
Sure. Mainly my practice is focused on divorce, co-parenting plans, um, premarital mediation and marital mediation. Premarital is, of course, before the couple actually gets married, and marital is once they have been married, and if they're wanting to work out issues about the marriage, either to stay together or just simply to get along better, then marital mediation is very beneficial for someone or a couple going through any difficulties they might be having.
That's interesting. So have you, I don't know why it segues me to this question, but have you found over the past, in this example, decades, there's been trends in the business of what you've seen more of? Maybe more prenuptial agreements or more co-parenting processing? What have you just seen as shift in trends?
I'd say actually premarital is fairly new for me, so I can't give you experience along that continuing. But I do believe from just hearing others talk about it, that people are more interested in setting up something before they get married, or before not even married. Maybe they're just a couple who wants to live together and cohabiting, and that presents its own problems. And people are willing to actually set up systems for themselves so that they don't have the difficulties that many people have in establishing a relationship and continuing that relationship.
That makes sense. And again, I keep thinking of, for the listeners and watchers today, what's the process like? So any one of these tell types, they give you a call or they send you an email or they visit your website, whatever it is, and they say, hey, we have this question. What do you think? How does it work from there?
Well, I'm willing to talk with people, give a free consultation for however long it takes, 15 minutes, half an hour, for them to go over the process. And then we go from there. So basically, if they decide that they want to explore further, then I can send them information and we can have a discussion about their particular issues, what they want, how they want to come out of it, that sort of thing. And then we set up a time. And the way I operate, I meet with people individually before meeting with them together. I know in Southern California, in some cases, it's the usual practice to actually have caucus style mediation, which means that each party meets with the mediator individually, apart from the other person. I choose not to operate that way for the most part. We do go into caucus sessions when it's needed. For instance, if we need a break or if people are having a particular problem going through the process, then we can take a break and we just take a few minutes and I talk with each of them individually, or we just take a break and we'll have a cup of coffee or get a drink of water, whatever it might take. But usually I meet with people jointly. And what we do at first is actually go over where they are now, where they both think they are at the present moment. And invariably, each has a different perspective of where they are in their marriage or their relationship. And it's up to me to understand that those two perspectives and somehow bring them together. And so once we start there, then we work through the process. I ask questions, they ask questions about the other person, and we get a general understanding of where they are. And then we try to work on where they want to go. And that's something that I would have talked with them in individual sessions that I mentioned earlier. Where do they want to see this end up? So how do they want to see their family after the divorce? How do they want to see the relationship with their children after their divorce or after their separation if they don't happen to be married? And then we go through perhaps maybe just a brainstorming session, whereas we come up with different ideas. Everyone has not, mainly I rely on them to actually produce ideas, and then they can bounce ideas off of me. I try to help them not to be judgmental about the ideas when they come up, because sometimes the ideas are kind of crazy, kind of out there. But surprisingly, sometimes those ideas bring them to a place where they can actually get to the place they need to be. So it might actually trigger something with them and say, oh, well, I hate that, but what about this? And that's what they're thinking. They don't necessarily express it that way, but I can see the wheels moving when they're thinking about it, when they're considering those ideas. And one process I think that helps us sometimes is when people are stuck and they throw out an idea and then the other person just says, oh no, we can't do that. Is to say, instead of just rejecting it out of hand, why don't you just say, okay, I'll think about it. And then truly do give it a little thought. So maybe you might throw it right out of your mind, but at least give the other person the respect of considering the idea that they're putting forth. And then you will get the same respect when you put forth your ideas. And sometimes that works wonders. Sometimes it doesn't matter, but but it is a tool that we can use, one of the many tools that we can use to actually get people to move along a path toward a resolution of whatever issues they might have.
Sure. It's interesting how you can hear things that will work in one field and also in another industry. What you just described sounds a lot to me like improv. There's a concept called yes and. And in improv, instead of if someone creates an idea, because it's improvisational comedy.
Yes.
I don't know what you're going to say. You don't know what I'm going to say. And the way to be able to riff back and forth is to do so with positivity. I can't keep shutting down your ideas because inevitably we'll never connect. And the audience would notice that. So
yes.
It's interesting to hear how that also applies in just day-to-day interactions with couples as they're going through their transitions or their challenges, etc.
Yes, that is interesting. I had never thought of that might be an element in improv.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I find to be really, really insightful that I didn't know is how personalized you can have a flow or a system or structure to the process. But I can imagine each one of these conversations is wildly different and unique to the people that are going through that process. And so what a skill set for you and your profession to be able to walk someone down that path with all of their individuality.
Yes, yes, it is. It's challenging, and that's what makes it so interesting. And when I told you how I came to mediation, but when I found it, it was as though this is what I've been trying to find.
I love it.
I like doing this. And so I've been doing it for these many years. It's the longest I've worked at anything, any profession or any undertaking at all.
So that actually brings up something that I was meaning to ask you is, where do you see yourself taking the business over the next year, 2 years down the road? Do you see yourself making changes? Are you looking at some type of growth? You've switched to online? Just tell me a bit about it.
Okay, it's interesting you asked that because recently I decided to start doing premarital mediation. And that's something that there's a little bit of controversy about or misunderstanding about. I know because of prenuptials, they're in the news, and cases like Lee Marvin case, it goes back decades, but actually was a palimony case where the court decided, well, yes, the woman who was living with him should benefit from that relationship. So I decided that I wanted to dip my toe into that water because it's really nice helping people going through divorce and getting to a place where they don't have to fight about every little thing, and they can separate, and perhaps amicably or maybe not, maybe they don't connect again at all. But if they can get through the process without going through the fight in court, it's so nice to help them through that process. However, on the other side of it, I am helping people to actually tear apart something. And I've long thought that it would be so nice to actually help people build the relationship instead of tearing it apart. So that's why I'm taking up, I've just been doing it a while, but that's why I have been doing premarital mediation. So for premarital agreements is to help people build something instead of tear it down.
Yeah, what a great way to look at that. You're putting bricks in that foundation for them, hopefully to be a good support system.
Yes, and I think people, I know that in my relationships and others I've seen, when you start a relationship, the last thing you're thinking is, well, how are we going to talk to each other? How are things going to go on a day-to-day basis? You're not thinking about that. You're just thinking, this person is great. We connect, we're great together. So we're going to do it. Well, maybe to put on the brakes a minute. Maybe you need to think a little bit about how that's going to go. And I know in my relationships, I told you I've been divorced a couple of times. If we had sat down and actually discussed things ahead of time, it would have been so much easier. Maybe we would have ended up in the same place anyway, but it would have been a lot better.
Yeah, that's insightful. Where the body of experiences that we have, and when you can put that into a practicum to be able to help other people is really, really powerful.
Yes, yes.
So with that being said, I always love to kind of wrap up with a last question, and not to put you on the spot, but is there, for those people that get the opportunity to watch this video, is there one last thing that you might want to share that you think is good for them to know about you or your industry? And mind you, we're going to pop up all of your contact information here. So if anyone has questions or needs of Marvin and his services, please, I encourage you to be able to reach out to them. But with that being said, any parting words?
Okay. Well, a couple of things. One is, if you're looking for something that will help you through your conflict, whatever it might be, to help you so that you don't have to go to court, you don't have to deal with attorneys in a adversarial type of relationship like you do in court. It's set up that way. So if you go to court, you're going to be adversaries, and that sort of tears apart whatever you might have remaining. So if you're looking for something like that, I can help you with that. And I can help. The mediation process is set up just for that. And I really look forward to anyone reaching out and would be able to help them as much as I can. And as just so you know, I've set up a special discount for my services ending August 1st. If anyone links to my account, to my website, then they have mediation of any sort for $500 flat fee. So those are my parting words.
That's great. Thanks, Marvin. And please, folks, do remember that are watching this, Marvin did also say that he provides an initial complimentary consultation. So if you just want to be able to bounce off your idea with a professional and see if mediation and Marvin services are right for you, no pressure. He's there to be able to help. So as always, Marvin, this was great. Thank you so much for chatting. It's always a pleasure to connect with you.
Thank you.
Until the next time, folks, this is Eric Brown, your Beverly Hills real estate agent, bringing you Marvin Whistler and his online family mediation services. Until the next time, we are signing off.